And now we go on to the keynote speech. It will be performed by two people, Ms. Urška Starc-Pečeni and Mr. Tomi Iljaš. Mr. Iljaš is the CEO and Dr. Starc-Pečeni is the CIO, so it means Chief Innovation Officer of Arctur. Well, you may think that Arctur is a Slovenian tourism organization which organizes tours to Arctics. But it's not the case. It's the leading service provider of supercomputing in Central and Eastern Europe, and they will introduce the concept of tourism 4.0. So, Mr. Iljaš and Dr. Starc-Pečeni, please, the floor is yours.
Še en mikrofon, prosim. So, dobro jutro. Good morning to everybody. Thank you very much. In next half an hour, we will be traveling between future and present, between fiction and reality. So, I'm Tomi Iljaš, and this is Urška, my co-worker. And we were traveling last half a year around the world, and we were presenting the vision of Tourism 4.0 from Beijing to Mexico, Mazatlan, and it was very exciting. And today I'm very proud, we are both very proud and honored to share this vision with you. Allow me to, oh, it works. No, not yet. Yeah. Allow me to share a couple of words about Arctur. As said, we are the leading high-performance computing provider in Central and Eastern Europe. I guess most of you don't know what exactly high-performance computing is. And also, excuse me, because most of my presentations are, the audience my presentations are very technical. So today I'm trying to be very, trying to avoid all these funny abbreviations we are using daily. Important is that you know that we are offering services to industry. We are offering services on our supercomputer to the global industry. And most of our research projects, and there are many of research projects we are involved in, are related to Industry 4.0. So high-performance computing, it's one of the big things in the Industry 4.0. And we all know that the best breakthrough innovations are usually combining the science, technology, and different fields. And once we had in our research team later this year, we had a brainstorming in our research department, and we were figuring out where our technologies could be implemented. And very soon, tourism popped up. And luckily, at that time, Urška and Simon was present, and we set up the good team, and Urška took a lead. And then we also partnered with the best universities in Slovenia, the best tourism faculties and ICT faculties in Slovenia, and set up a consortium and win the largest R&D project in the history of Slovenia from the tourism field. So, Urška, please.
On the stage. So, good morning from my side. Not only me, as Tomi already said, I have been working with Simon Mokorel and others for almost 20 years now, creating innovative ecosystems in Slovenia and around the world. And we have been brainstorming, and we have been thinking about tourism. Since the early beginnings, since the antique, people have been traveling. And tourism has been adapting to social and technological development all the time. And now with this digitalization, with these rapid changes, it is chaos. It needs to adapt again. And as we will learn that technology has changed lives in improving the products, we think that now is time that we do this for services. Tourism 4.0 is not yet here. As he said, we have been traveling, we have been talking to people, we are trying to understand, to learn how they deal with these issues. And there are many attempts to deal with this chaos. I'm very proud to lead this project and to work with these smart persons because we are trying to do something different. We're trying to build a basis to understand a model, to understand how the ecosystem, how the people in this ecosystem collaborate. So it means we want to create a system in which we boost this spirit of collaboration. So yes, technology is important, but this is only the mean to boost this innovation and collaboration between the persons. But to understand and to make technology help us, we first need to understand it. So please, can you introduce these complicated concepts maybe to go on then with the human part?
I can't. Sorry, but I will mention some, let's say, key enabling technologies we are using in Industry 4.0. The first, of course, because it's my dearest, it's high-performance computing, which you know it's a bunch of computers connecting together with very, very fast wires. And it's really expensive toy we are using, and luckily it's the lifespan, it's only 5 years. So in 5 years' time, you have to earn your money back. Of course, we are running a lot of simulations on this high-performance computing. Most of them are fluid dynamics, different types, and fast-growing demand is for big data analytics. So usually we say HPDA, so it's high-performance data analytics. So it means that you need a lot of data and you analyze them using various methods, most of them like base analytics, base methods, etc. We have Internet of Things. In Industry 4.0, there are hundreds of sensors in one room, or thousands even. We are measuring everything, temperature of the machines, the vibrations, all sorts of measuring, and then all these data are collected and machine is learning how to deal with them. It's not Slovenian.
Music.
Yeah. Okay. Blockchain, you know, it's new, but Slovenia is a kind of superpower in this field. And we had our first PhD 7 years ago with me as a co-mentor on blockchain. 7 years ago, believe me, nobody was talking about blockchain. Only when this cryptocurrency was getting popular, everybody started talking about this. 3D scanning and printing, this is very usual, this is daily in the industry. Augmented reality. With augmented reality, many things, many complex machines can be nowadays repaired by average, let's say, workers. And virtual reality also helps in many cases, and additive manufacturing as well. So these are buzzwords. And believe me, early this year, I didn't have a clue how this technology could be implemented fully in tourism. But
so I would say enough of technology, because tourism is something different. Tourism is not about products, it's about services. I would say tourism is about people, it's about exploring, it's about exploring other cultures, history, present, about exploring ourselves. But not only exploring. I'm actually a mother of 3 children, and I care what kind of world we are going to live them now and in the future. And I actually envision tourism as a driver of positive change. And in this reality of fast changing, where everything feels chaotic, it helps a lot, or usually, or often helps, that we take metaphor from nature to understand the big picture. And in this case, I like a lot this metaphor from chaos theory. I don't know if you know it. If a butterfly flaps with its wing on one part of the world, it can prevent or cause a hurricane on the other part of the world. So in our team, we would like to create a system in which tourism is this driver of the positive change, in which every stakeholder can be a butterfly. Every tiny action counts, but not only tourists. We are trying to understand what kind of ecosystem we should build, and we start to build it from the local to the local inhabitants with local authorities. And around it, we have tourist service providers, and government. This is only just the beginning, the very basics of this ecosystem. And in this reality, if the number of tourists and tourism service providers increases, it still remains in the equilibrium. But now we come to the main point. So in this system, the most important thing is what kind of impact we do. So I would like to give you the word and in which way we are trying to build these systems to create a positive impact.
Thank you very much. This is the hard part, so please apologize me if I do any mistakes. So 1 billion people is traveling around the world yearly. And I'm pretty much sure that we have to use technology to improve the impact of tourism. Tourism, it ought to be environmentally friendly, it ought to be socially friendly, it ought to be people's friendly, but it's not. So we want to use a new approach to make a model of collaboration to minimize the negative impact of tourism by using all available data and also the data which are not yet available at the moment. And by this, we would like to take the right measures to each specific destination. So imagine each destination could set up their own model and say how much cars can get into the valley of, I don't know, Socha, how much tourists Venice can accept, how much water can be used on a remote island of, I don't know, Croatia. These are all limitations, and it's good that each local community set these parameters. And technology can help us doing this. Another thing is it's about motivating and rewarding. We would like to reward the good behavior, but not only the tourists, the good behavior also of the tourist providers, local communities, etc. So we were thinking of an, let's say, parallel system, not to use real money for doing this, but to use cryptocurrency, crypto token. And we are calling it collaboration impact token. Imagine that this token could have different value in time and place. So when you have euros, they're the same value in Bled, in Ljubljana or Nova Gorica. It's not exactly, because a coffee here is a bit more expensive, of course, but in cryptocurrency you can do it much better. You can improve some of the remote parts of the country, some of the remote destinations which are not in the mainstream of the tourism, and promote the usage of these tokens here. We are doing this very, very accurately. It's a bit risky to discuss about additional cryptocurrency in these days, but I'm pretty much sure that something very, very strong will come out very soon. The third idea, or let's say the third pillar of our research is personal crypto passport. Finally, I would like to have my own identity in my cold wallet. In my language, this means it's not in the cloud. It's just mine, right? because we are all giving our data daily to the booking.com, to Facebook, to Google, and they are not really paying us. They are not paying Slovenian taxes, neither European. They are paying zero. They are living zero in the country where they make money. So I think some changes should be done, and we should force these big guys to leave a little bit of money, but especially they have to leave a little bit of data about us. But our approach is completely different. This crypto passport would help us to solve the information overload and supply overload. You probably know that when you try to search for a destination, I don't know, Bora Bora, soon you will be spammed by thousands of offers from that destination, etc., etc. So it's a lot of overload. And we would like to narrow what we want to achieve. We want to narrow what we need, what our let's say, wishes as a tourist. And of course, this is based on blockchain, and it really separates the source and the gain by a very trustworthy system, trustworthy platform, which cannot be private owned. It should be corporate. It should be governmental owned. And of course, this is an European way of dealing with personal data, not the Chinese way, and sorry, not even the American way of dealing with data.
But again, many complicated things and concepts here. Let me try to summarize with a story. As I said, I am dealing with building of ecosystems, and one of the things that I'm doing, I'm leading the NASA Space App Challenge in Vienna. This is the biggest hackathon worldwide. What is a hackathon? Hackathon is a new format of innovation and collaboration, nothing else. People come together and try to solve challenges. Last year, we had a children challenge, and they were trying to build future cities here on the Earth and on the other planets. And I really love to see children and think in their, innovative way, completely crazy for us, adults. And one of the main things that they recognized, one was that the movement is very important in the cities, and the other was garbage was one of the issues for them. But I was surprised to find out that music was something that they would like to take to another planet, something important. And I was really shocked when I found out that actually the oldest instrument found on the Earth was found in Slovenia. Did you know that? Okay, you do, but you're from tourism, but mainly the people don't. And they came to me like Urška, Slovenia, all excited. And they found on the internet that this is the Divje Babe flute. And okay, so let's assume now a story. Me with my family, we go to Slovenia, and I will try to understand your complicated concepts.
This is fiction, right now?
This is
Try
fiction.
to make a divide.
Tourism 4.0 is not yet here. We come to the border, and we pay the toll ticket, and with, 10 euro for the roads, we get 10 euro of green coins, green tokens, okay? So on our, or maybe we just log in the national Wi-Fi system, and we get the tokens. We go to the museum because we want to see this flute. We visit the museum, and my children they see the flute, but they want to touch it, to have it, to take it. So we have the 3D printing that we are discussing, and we can 3D print this thing. Yes.
This is original.
This is the original, so I have to. And it looks like this. And we actually want to go to Bled, or actually to Bovec. We plan to go to Bovec, and my son tells me, Mom, no, we are not going to Bovec. I just found out that we have coins we have better way to get the coins. And where did you get the coins? Because he reported that a broken garbage bin on the fuel station to the local authority, and for that he gained a token. Then he wrote a review about our visit in museum, and he gained tokens again. So while we were traveling, he was already communicating, collaborating with local authority, with museum, and then the system, as Tommy was describing before, suggested him that Bovec there are no more space for cars. There are many people there. Maybe there is a weather condition that it's not pleasant to go there. And the system suggests us to go to Cerkno, right? Sorry. And in the museum, we had the chance to walk, to see how this piece, how the life in the age of this piece was with virtual reality. But when we come to the cave, with augmented reality, you see the difference with the phone. We can see this place, this piece was found, and what kind of life there was. So for my children, this is an incredible experience.
Can I hide? Yeah.
Do we have all the technologies that you said, or did I miss something?
I don't know. Probably you got it all. So it's fantastic. Basically, we can see now that all the technologies, all the key enabling technologies from the industry 4.0 can be easily used, and some of them are already in use in tourism. So high performance computing, of course, is the base of everything, and we need simulations to do the simulations of the, I don't know, prediction of the weather and other things. All sorts of predictions are made by simulations. So big data analytics, it's also in place. So the system was calculating where are these people in Bovec and how many of them are, or meteorological, maybe it was a storm at that time. So it was overcrowded. We need sensors to measure this. We need sensors to count cars in the valley of Trenta. We need sensors to count people in the main square of Ljubljana, etc. We need a lot of sensors, and we have to analyze the data on a real-time basis. And of course, you were using crypto token, and it's based on, of course, on blockchain.
Excuse me. I think I missed something. How does this token work, actually? Okay, I gain a token, and let's say I'm in the hotel. I want to go to make a good impact. I'm not like showering for 1 hour. I'm showering for I'm still showering, but not for 1 hour. Okay, and the IoT system sees how much of water I just consumed. I don't need hundreds of towels. I can do like with 2 towels. Maybe I don't need to have my room cleaned every day, because if I'm on meetings and I leave the room in the morning and I'm back at night, and the hotel gives me the tokens. So if I go in the bar there, how much beer or wine do I get? Or
nothing,
Coke?
because you don't drink alcohol.
Okay.
But yeah, a nice vegetable cocktail, whatever.
Okay, whatever, yes.
But yeah, I would have a couple of beers in a hotel. But in this system, you could have more beers in a remote place of Slovenia. So you could be stimulated to go, I don't know.
Okay, 3 beers in the hotel,
Or
let's say
one beer in this hotel, even half a beer.
Okay,
in this
then
hotel.
a little bit of less if I would go like outside,
yeah.
and if I go to a remote area in Slovenia,
The value changes. The value changes.
So the value changes. How does it change?
Yeah, it's based on, let's say, business, entrepreneurial thinking. So they can offer, and you can exchange these green coins to some services or governmental incentives. So government can decide that this area where it's like less developed and not many tourists are going there, so can be, the value of the token can be higher, and actually people there can even pay taxes by these coins. So it is a real money, but with a very, very dynamic value. It depends of the
And it's
place.
trying to influence the flow of the people and
Of course.
local persons. And
Of course, you went to Divjebabe, right? Who was in Divjebabe where this magnificent piece were found? Oh, no, Verena, please, Professor Perko. She is an archaeologist, a famous one. I know you were. Even me, imagine, I was thinking of studying archaeology, and then, unfortunately, I decided to study computer science. But I was never at Divye Babe. And you were with your family, right?
Yeah.
Okay, in your fiction. So it is a nice example how you can redirect the flows of the tourists, and it's a nice experience because Ljubljana Center or Piran or, excuse me, Bled maybe sometimes are not the great experience because it's overcrowded. And our, let's say, goal is to make a big step ahead with this technology.
So
we have it all, right? You mentioned also we can see that all this can be deployed in Tourism 4.0, and we will work hard to make it happen.
okay, so concluding, do you want to? We were trying to make an inspiration to like an insight, things that we are researching, we are trying to understand. It's just the beginning, but
Conclusions. By bringing technologies from Industry 4.0 to tourism, we can really make tourism with highly positive impact on the people. It's not about technology, remember. It's about the people. It's about the better tourism with a high impact.
okay, we want to marry technology and tourism together. We want to make tourism safer, usable, eco-friendly, local-friendly, sustainable. We can only do this together. And as we said, Industry 4.0 has changed and improved our lives, our products, and we think, we and the group of people who is working with us think and believe that now it's time to make this for the services too. So thank you.
Thank
for
you very
the
much.
attention. And with that, this is us.
Thank you, Urška. Thank you, Tommy. Please take care, the flute, because it's original. If you break it, the Neanderthals will come and beat you. So now we go on with our panel discussion, which will add some added value to that what we already heard. I'm really proud to announce 6 members of the panel. Ms. Nienke van Schaverbeke, the head of Europeana Collections at the Europeana Foundation in The Hague. Europeana is the European Commission digital platform for cultural heritage, so welcome on stage. Our next guest is Ms. Helena Bulaja Madunic, award-winning innovator and pioneer of digital immersive interacting storytelling with 25 years of excellence. For the past 13 years, Ms. Bulaja focuses on the creation of cross-media projects and content inspired by Nikola Tesla, the famous Serbian Croatian inventor who also lived in the States and began his career in Slovenia. More on that a little bit later. Then we're happy to announce Dr. Verena Vidrich-Perko, the curator of the Museum of Upper Carniola in Kran, a famous archaeologist, author, poet, and also lecturer at the University of Ljubljana, the founder of the PhD program of heritology. Then we have, of course, Ms. Eva Strauss-Podloga, the State Secretary of the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology. She was also the head of Bled Tourism, so that's why Bled is so beautiful, because she in a way built it. Then we're really happy to have Mr. Georg Steiner here, the tourism director of the city of Linz in Austria. Since 2007, he successfully completed the project of European Capital of Culture in 2009, and Linz has become also the member of the UNESCO Creative Cities Network as the city of media arts. It's the home of Ars Electronica and the Stream Festival of the Bruckner House. Mr. Schneider actually comes from the other side of Danube, from Germany, but he's equally respected in Germany and Austria for his work. And last but not least, Mr. Zener Batagel, partner at Valicon, co-founded and Iconomy. He has worked with the biggest corporations in our region for the last 25 years, and it's a true believer in distributed Web 3.0 economy and the disruptive power of smart contracts. It's very, very complicated, but you will tell us a little bit more then later on. But since it's the Bled Strategic Forum, we start with politicians. Ms. Strauss-Podlogar is now a politician. But on what we heard previously, where do you see the role of the state, of a member of the European Union? What can the state provide to improve this, to make these ideas real? Only infrastructure, or do you see any other inputs you could make?
Yeah, thank you, and warm welcome also on my behalf. But no, I think it's much more than just infrastructure. Let's start with Bled Strategic Forum. It's 13 years already. 10 years ago, it was hard to imagine that a part of a Bled Strategic Forum would be Panel tourism. This is really something what the government, I mean the Ministry of for Tourism as well, I mean Economic Development and Technology, has a very important role in. The other part are tenders. So I think that through Strategy for Tourism, we are really focusing what we would like to develop further on in Slovenia. So also the great tender that Tommy and Urška were presenting, really one of the biggest one, that it was possible to go to this tender. I hope you noticed that this was not a Ministry of Economy that published it, but it was a Ministry of Education, Science and Sport. So again, it was the ministry, the cooperation between the ministries, that it was possible to involve tourism again into research R&D tender. We are working closely together with other ministry, of course, for culture, and this, I think, it's essential. I would say, if I can be more innovative in saying that our ministry is like a thumb, because the thumb is the only finger in the hand that connects with all other fingers. So we can say that one finger is their local communities, other ministries, their businesses, and of course, civil society. So, and all together, we are a hand that we can do something useful for Slovene tourism. So very much connected, and I think that in the past we showed together with the Slovene Tourist Board that we are focusing and leading the right directions, and of course we are lucky enough that the businesses and private sector in Slovenia that we are going the same path.
Yeah, it's a good idea with the thumb, but you may know that it can have 3 directions. This one, but this one too. So we'll be careful. Ms. van Schouderbeke, what can you tell us about the Europeana collection? How do you see the connection of the work you do? And you also have an impressive CV also as, let's say, a top librarian. Where do you see the institution you represent right now in the whole setup we discuss here?
Yeah, well, I think with Europeana we bring together over 58 million digital objects from cultural heritage institutions across Europe. So over 3,700 cultural heritage institutions. So I truly see the value of bringing the cultural heritage institutions locally into the mix. So collaborating at a local level with the cultural heritage institution, with the tourism board. We have some really nice pilots, and last year we released a really nice exhibition called Picture This, where digitized objects from local national libraries, including the National Library of Slovenia, we put together in an exhibition, and we organized a crowdsourcing exhibition also, where people could go to the space of the photographs that were in the exhibition and connect on a tourism level also the heritage institution with tourists coming to a city to visit them. So I see there's great potential there to make digitized collections available to tourists. And I think in the context of digital transformation, I believe that Europeana can play a role there, because we develop standards and best practices with the sector of museums, galleries, libraries and archives. So I think there's great potential there for collaboration.
Could you emphasize some project you're really proud of and dealing with exactly what we discuss here today?
Yeah, actually, I briefly touched upon an exhibition that we developed, but deriving from that exhibition, the National and University Library of Zagreb actually developed an app, Greetings from Zagreb. So based on a digitized postcard collections, they built this app in close collaboration with the tourism board in Zagreb, and they won a prize at the recent IFLA, International Federation of Libraries Association in Kuala Lumpur last week. So deriving from investing in making available and opening up your collections as a heritage institution at a local level, bringing also and exploring new ways how you can address audiences as a tourism board, but also as a heritage institution. And I think that collaboration can be strengthened and is very valuable.
That's good to know. It's not far away from Slovenia, so we should experience this. Well, Ms. Bulaya, you're very famous for a lot of things, but let's say this Tesla project, which is going on for so long, it will probably outlive the Tesla project with electro cars. But I wouldn't be too specific on that. What can you tell us about your work, and how do you see it connected with our topic here?
Is it working? Yes.
It's working. In Slovenia, everything is working.
First, I want to thank you for this beautiful presentation of Tourism 4.0, because I'm kind of organic follow-up of that ideas that happened and that are in needs now. Why? Because you're working on that hard, but me as an artist, I was trying to explain that to my government, to my colleagues in 2004, I think. I don't remember. And then I felt really disappointed. They don't understand me. So, and now listening this in Slovenia, for me, coming from ex-Yugoslavia, Croatian, Slovenia for me was always far ahead with this way of combining the digital and analog thinking, of the ways what Tesla was proclaiming and hoping for, that technology one day will make our life easier. So this is a new luxury, and I think that now we will see convergence of many things on organic way, as you explained in your presentation, because we obviously need each other. Because technology is not just the tool for our service. We have to think about technology as a new child that we brought to life on a way. And that child has its own needs, and that child is different than humanity. And I was really lucky through my life that I have a luxury to spend 13 years exploring Tesla thoughts and philosophy, and to understand what he wanted to say. And Tourism 4.0 is exactly what he wanted to say. That's what just to wrap up, what I wanted to say with that is, like, before this advanced technology and blockchain capabilities and easy life that we can really live now in any country, we needed to earn that. And then we wanted to spend, I don't know, we worked 80 hours and we could spend 8 hours in this easy life for that. But today, we want it now. We want to live. We want to live easy and to create that life now. And that was what Tesla was aiming for. And all technology he developed, he didn't develop for machines because he didn't care about machines, he cared about humanity. And I'm really happy that we're coming together now and that we see that somehow subconsciously and intuitively, and that is something, I'm half Slovenian, and intuition is so strong in places like this where nature is pure. We're just coming together intuitively. And I'm sure in pretty smaller amount of time than 10 years or 14 years when I was thinking that this is the future, we will really make this future because we can't escape it now. We can pretend that it's not coming, and we can sink down, as many things will sink down. But I'm really happy to be part of this, and I see this is where technology is heading, to some humanity, how to say, to a new life of perfect synergy between nature and humans, thanks to technology. But we have to be very, very smart, not to give technology, artificial intelligence, as you explained, ability to overtake us. So let's see where we're gonna come.
So we may say that Nikola Tesla is a sort of forefather of Tourism 4.0.
Yes.
we have the father and mother sitting there.
Yes, and the child
Yeah, and the child is
that wants to live now and enjoy.
Because you know about you studied Tesla a lot. I think his experience in Slovenia, in present Slovenia, in Maribor, was really defining. So he became what he was because of a quite a weird experience in Maribor.
If I can continue?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I guess today most of the people know who Tesla is. In Maribor, he had an episode of gambling because he was so disappointed with the teacher in Graz, who was so unsupportive, who told him, Tesla, you know, nobody invented perpetuum mobile, so who are you to think you can do that? So he went to Maribor to gamble all his money out, and then police kicked him off and called the father to bring him back home. So, you know, why he was such a person? Because 150 years ago, he felt this moment gonna come, and he felt he's the one who has to trace the roots. And I really enjoyed your presentation because we have to take this responsibility. Maybe not all of us will live in this world completely, but if we don't start as Tesla gambling with our life right now and earning the right points, we may be overthrown by artificial intelligence and end up in Mad Max reality. So this was a Tesla message of the gambling in Maribor.
So that was the defining experience. He felt Slovenia in a way and changed the way he was thinking. So we made Tesla in a way. Yes.
Balkans was disastrous for him. He knew he has to leave.
Yeah, but he's still with us.
Of course.
Dr. Wiedrich Perko, it's perhaps a very nice take to you because you're dealing with heritology and you're. How do you see the whole phenomena we're discussing here? High technology, but then heritage, which some may regard as old-fashioned. How do you see the connection?
Oh, it's very essential to understand. Heritage is really a sense of our life, of our values, and to include heritage in tourism as a product, there is no sense. We have to include the local population, the country, as it is perceived by local population. I mean, it's a heritage is way of life, it's value of life. And this, I think, is so important that we understand how to organize the way of visiting country, how to include all this tiny but very important places like Dujebabe, like all parts of country, because we have to. I work here also in a museum, and the role of museum is. To include our population, because not only the objects or the material, but the people, they are a sense of life. We are talking on the same way, the same language, but we have only to know that the heritage is unique, and it's so easily to devastate the sites. They have authenticity, they have stories, they have a long prehistory, and they have also the population. So we have to link together to communicate these values to the tourists, to the visitors, and to learn them how to understand, how to respect the value of our lives.
Yeah, but this is also the essence of tourism, because it goes both ways. So also
I remind you, this is the same language. Excuse me.
No. You're here to talk. Don't try to excuse yourself. No. But and because you're so famous in the work you do, how do you see, let's say, the role of technology in the work you do, and you try also to use in tourism?
I'm enthusiastic because it's new technologies is really the mean. It's an instrument let's say, first of all, to let know on the people the heritage in the world. Before you go on the route, you just go on the computer and you can see interpretation, then the material culture, then places, people, and so. But it's also very important that new technology can also enable us to understand the behavior of our visitors, their needs, and also the needs of the local communities. And especially on the level of the heritage interpretation, it's fantastic because, you know, if you interpret, if you reconstruct the monument, you destroy on one level or another this monument forever, because this is only one part of the vision of the understanding of interpretation. But 3D reconstruction, you can get 1, 2, 3, or even 4 interpretations, and you can share and you can spread the idea through the world. And this is so important that we know, that we learn the people today, because it's so easy. You know, our way is easy and now. And just the heritage could be so easy, devastated, or destroyed, and that is end of the story, once, forever. And our duty, not only mine, but of all us, is to preserve the heritage for the next, for the future, for our children.
And to know that, for example, Stonehenge was not built near Bled, and the inhabitants of this Bled Stonehenge were not molested by dinosaurs.
It is the authentic place of Bled was abused, and it is destroyed somehow on that place. I'm really deeply.
I know, because.
Give me a little water. Yeah.
Whenever you drive to Bled, you get a little bit excited about this in a negative way.
I'm not watching that.
Okay.
Be careful today.
Yeah. So actually, Stonehenge does not belong to Bled, just to be on the safe side. Mr. Schneider, you represent a really brilliant example of the city of Linz, because you really embraced the culture in the tourism sector of the city. It's actually a city of industry, but now it becomes the city of culture, Ars Electronica, the Bruckner House. I said so. How would you explain this really fantastic example to us? Ja, Sie müssen es einschalten. Ja. I'll give you mine. Mine is working.
Oh, sorry. Now, thank you for invitation. All what we discussed, I think Linz is a very good example for the changing process in tourism, but for the whole city. Started with the project European Capital of Culture 2009. Maribor was European Capital of Culture 2012?
2012,
yes.
Yeah.
And I think we need such events, such rituals to have, to can change not only your image, to can bring your strategy in a new way. And you said it, Linz is a very successful industry city. Linz is a very successful industry city, a steel industry, and steel was not so successful in Europe the last years, but the Linz industry is the daily store for industry in Europe, for car industry special. And now Linz is not only an industry city, it's an industry and cultural city. And politics said, working places and industry alone is too less. You need culture for inhabitants, not for tourism. Linz was not developed for tourism. Now, 2009, I started in Linz 2007. I said I come from Bavaria. I was director of tourism in Passau, a classic city with a great history. But in Linz, it hasn't a great history. And my great experience in 2009 was to build the interface between culture, between the artists, and between tourism and our, not only our guests, our employees in the hotels, to the inhabitants of Linz, that they can understand what is the message and what are the projects and what can we tell our tourists. Many inhabitants, many people, when they're thinking in tourism, they're thinking in history, in old castle, in old ruins, in churches and so on. But in Linz there is no so many of the old things.
Not
in
yet.
Linz, not yet. In Linz, you said it, is Ars Electronica. 1975, Linz started with a project called Ars Electronica. We said digitalization, computers are very important. The same what you now say with blockchain, yes? In Linz said, there is a there are aspects they will be very important, and they started a festival called Ars Electronica Festival. And yesterday, the Ars Electronica Festival in this year ended. I have the program here, and the motto, the slogan in this year was "Error, the art of imperfection." And we said only machines are perfect, and we all what we have now, Tesla, for example, and Fleming, for example, they started with an error, and they had a lot of errors, and the way of our solutions started with errors, and we have to learn complex situations to work with errors. This was the slogan in this year. More than 100,000 participants all over the world were in Linz last week, and now we built a museum of the future called Ars Electronica Center, and we have a pre-Ars Electronica, I think the most important media prize in the world. 1980, Tim Berners-Lee won this prize. Nobody knows what blockchain, what is internet. 1980, it's the same situation. Tim Berners-Lee, the founder of the internet, working in the CERN in Genf, won this prize. Julian Assange, for example, 2009 was in Linz when European Capital of Culture was. He won this prize for, WikiLeaks. Nobody was it WikiLeaks, and I think this is what we have to learn in tourism, to translate, to be an interface to all these possibilities. What we have now. What can we do with all these techniques, with all this technology? What is good for tourists? What is good for inhabitants? And we bring all this together. And now we are working in Linz together with Ars Electronica, together with a lot of companies and interesting people like you. Thank you for your very great keynote. And next week, tomorrow, we have a press conference to start our new app with gamification. We built a gamification tool in our app, Visit Linz. You can taste it, Visit Linz. In Android, it is on air, and in iOS, it comes today or tomorrow. Please try it. I think gambling, playing is a very, very important thing. Bring together all things like heritage. People are gaming Wesen, Gaming, spielende Wesen.
Spielende Wiesen,
Spielende Wesen,
playful grounds.
Playful grounds, and we should do more gamification, more playing, also in tourism with all our activities. We started tomorrow with our new app, but this is one small example what we do to bring these ideas in a fascinating way to our guests.
Thank you very much. We will come back to your strategies, how it started and how do you see the future, but I would like to give the floor to Mr. Zenel Batagel, who is an expert on, let's say, technology and applying technology in let's say, future endeavors. Well, how do you see everything what we discuss here today? So heritage, new technologies, tourism, what is your view on that?
Actually, when I was asked to come here, I said, oh, this cannot be connected. But actually it can be connected, but it needs a little bit longer introduction. So the tourism is an interesting field because it's the first industry that was heavily disrupted by the technology, heavily. It's the most disruptive technology, and we can learn all businesses from it a lot. So, but basically, the key question is how consumer interacts with the ordinary world and culture, because culture is one of the key ingredients of that thing. So first it was Web 1.0, and it was about reading, giving content. Then it was Web 2.0, when we got the ability to also publish something. So it was not only about reading, but also about writing. And that's when we get the explosion of data. That's when we start to talk about big data. But you know, when you deal with big data, those that are maybe some of you are doing that, it's more than 90% of time when you analyze this data is how you organize that. And this is the biggest issue. And that's why now we have the Web 3.0, which is proposed by the same people that were proposing Web 1.0. And it's about organizing data. So we're talking here about semantic web, so that machines and humans will be able to much easier interact with these tons of data, because we will know what's the meaning behind. That's so important. But besides that, there are some other things that will be solved very soon with the same technology. It's the problem with the identification, the problem of storing data, the problem of accessing data, GDPR, etc. And at the end, of course, monetization, micropayments. And this is something completely new. But somebody has to do that. And right now, I think we don't have enough people to do that. And these are the new smart guys. The future hero, actually the future elite. And this future elite, they're digital nomads, and they're going around. And actually, they found quite an interesting space in Linz. Linz is on map on them. And this is the culture that is emerging out of this technology. So it's not only about technology helping culture, but also technology is producing new culture. It's something completely different. And it has completely different form. These people don't know where they live. And I think us Europeans, we should, this is the first thing that is very important. Us Europeans, we have culture, and we should embrace these people, these new digital nomads. But let's go back. So what this technology will actually do? We've seen a great presentation of keynote speakers, and they were mentioning things like reputation systems, because everything is tracked. We are leaving our digital trace behind, and on top of it, reputation on anything can be measured objectively. The second thing is things that we are doing will be incentivized. So that's what we are doing right now for free. For TripAdvisor, the databases that will come will actually be public, and anyone will have the access to these databases. It's a completely new story. And all the material. So for now, the material was scarce. For now on, there will be a lot of materials, and few technologies behind, like, for example, mobile operating systems will emerge that will allow us how to interact with that data. So how this thing is connected with culture. So the first thing is augmented reality. So we will use our phones, we will check the phone, we will see something is happening there, you will see it through the phone, and everything, all the information about that particular thing will be here. And that one will come for gaming. Pokemon Go, that's the way. And these kids, they know how to collect coins. Everything is already in their minds. This is the way how they think. This is the way how they interact with the world. So most probably, like cryptocurrencies, blockchain and everything, it has the origin in gaming. Everything is coming from gaming. That's why we need to understand gaming a lot. The second thing, which is really, this is what scares me, is the virtual reality. So we will have all the data, all the pictures, all the descriptions, everything will be there. And the first step will be Ljubljana will look just like Ljubljana, and Paris will look just like Paris. But you know what is the good part of VR? Because everything is tracked. There will be tons of data, objective data, and that will lead into completely different realities. And we don't know what is that. Thanks.
It's quite confusing what you said, but I will start the next round with you, Zeynel. Well, you addressed something really important. We measure everything. Okay, there may be also ways how to limit this. You spoke about this passport, but how to find the right measure between new technologies and heritage in order to bring about more experience to local people, but also tourists. So how to draw this fine line where this would be good for people, not actually that we would become slaves of technology on the long term.
It will be left to consumers to decide what to do with their data. And this is where governments should educate people what data are and what can be done with data. So it's up to them, but we see how the elections are going on, what is good and what is bad. I don't think this educational part is doing well.
Okay, Ms. Berkovic.
Thank you. Yeah, I see really here a great opportunity for the heritage institutions and heritage as well. Because, we are already living in so-called simulacra culture. That we are creating simulations on the models of reality, a new hyper-reality. You said that. And what is the basic question of today's human being? Who I am, where I'm going, and what is the meaning of life. And this is not a part of only of education, probably also not of today's education, but of the heritage story, of the authenticity of place, of the authenticity of the narrative of, let's say, interpretative stories of the past. How to understand, because everything is written there, is like myth, and we have only to link today's visitors or tourists that they are coming in our country, how to let them know and how to let them recognize on the good way, not to destroy heritage, to include local population, to gain some or to earn some money for them, and also to promote the highly humanism, if I can say.
Yeah. Ms. Harabeke, how do you see this fine line between measuring too much and finding the right measure to make things we speak about real?
That's interesting what you just said. Are we the ones to say what is good for the people? I thought that was But where I completely agree is that the role of the cultural heritage institutions, who have the expertise, who have the knowledge, who have been preserving our shared European history for so many years, can play an influential role. I also think that how we want to engage users, you mentioned the new app being launched soon with includes a gamification element, that maybe my 16-year-old niece would find it extremely cool because he played Pokemon Go already for a couple of years, but my mother would expect something else on her iPhone, and she's 75. But so she may want to hear the personal accounts of people who have experienced things at a fantastic or historical site, for example. So I think what we're trying to do at Europeana is to collect the digitized cultural heritage collections, but also make them come to life by recording the personal stories. So make maybe that mix of bringing the personal or maybe a letter that we've digitized, a letter from the First World War, for example, to connect with an historical site where things have happened, to make that come to life. I think there we can have a fantastic role to play together, and I completely agree with your point that the heritage institutions can play a role there in the technology, bring their expertise into the mix would be a very valuable way.
Strauss-Podloger, it's very interesting because you're now in the government since 2015. We speak in Slovenia a lot about how problems are big within the government to communicate, between different ministries and so on. But here I see really a very important role of state institutions, really to connect, really to try to establish, let's say, an ecosystem, that's a very fashionable word, for making all these things possible, but also bearable for people. So how do you see the role of state institutions in this part?
Yes, very important ones. I think that when we were making a strategy of tourism, a new one, this was really like a challenge for all of us, for other ministries, and we collaborated really good together. So we find out that from 14 ministries plus 2 not officially ministries, the tourism is really connected with all of them. You can't find a single theme in Slovenia that somehow is not connected with tourism. But it's all about people. So if there are the right people in the different ministries, directorate, state secretaries, they know each other. So then the collaboration starts. Otherwise, people make barriers, if I'm honest, not the other things. But if I can add something, listening my other speakers, so I think that the big challenge for Tourism 4.0 would be really a lot of collaboration, that this will be a successful project for all of us. And when we are saying that the locals should be involved, as locals, I mean Slovenians locals, so that from one part of Slovenia, regarding the fact that we are not a huge country, you know what is really worthwhile visiting, experiencing in the other part of Slovenia. And here I have a question or doubt, I don't know the answer, because Zenel said that we should leave the consumer to decide. I think from my perspective it's too much data that I can make a decision. I think we should help the consumer. We should find the focus on consumer needs. What we are also doing to have to know what kind of guests are interested in Slovenia, to have this group of guests and then help them. Because otherwise, I mean, I don't like if I ask on the other part of the world to get to the tourist board maybe, to get some information, and they're saying, yes, no problem, here is, and they make me a copy paste of the website. This I can find myself, but I need more detailed information, and I think this is the challenge.
Zinder, perhaps your response?
So now the systems we have for consumers to optimize their visits are actually TripAdvisor and similar things that are completely centralized. So where we are going is complete decentralization and public databases. That's very, very different thing. And on top of it, there will be algorithms And you will be able to choose, okay, I would like this one, maybe that one, maybe the third one. It will be extremely open, extremely open. So very, very hard to convince somebody to do something that is not good for that person. So the marketing itself, it will be very hard to say, don't go to Piran, go to, I don't know, Dolinska somewhere. Because you want to revive that region. They don't care. Algorithms don't care.
So it really depends who writes the algorithm and who controls it.
It's public. There will be many algorithms. The best one will win.
Okay.
Those crazy guys, digital nomads, we want them here.
Is it working?
Yes. Yeah, it's working.
I think it's
not always, but it's working now.
I'm suspicious about technology because I can see where it's going. It's not going to be a nice end, but it's going to last for a long time. So what we see now, we have a build-up of a new mythology of a new generation that doesn't have a clue about heritage on institutional way. For example, if you talk about heritage of Balkans, we did so many researches, but it's not translated even in English. So for example, if you are digital nomad like I am, I'm an old school, okay, let's take some 20 years younger, and you want to come to island of Mljet because you heard somewhere it's island of Odysseus. Okay, you come down and you have no idea it's an island of giants. So why I'm telling this? Because today, this new mythology, new people that are emerging, digital nomads, they live in a storytelling world. They're building up stories, they live up through the stories, and they leave that stories for a new stories. So this is completely new future that is maybe 20% of the complete future that is supposed to come, that is going on right now, and they don't care about anything, about any past, any future, anything. And these are not consumers. These are creators of the future that the second population, which are consumers, which are still old school people who consume heritage, are coming and we're building the applications for them. We're making for them life easier to see where the traffic is bigger, where the food is better, blah, blah. But those people are starting to get overloaded with these informations, and they don't care. They're booking a trip, they go into the bus, and they don't want to see the app because it's too much for them. And we see them every day, you know. So those people are, let's say, they know how to use technology, but they're giving it to someone, to the guide, to the person to guide them through technology. So we live in a time where future is happening without being acknowledged with 80% of population. So this is not a problem, that's the reality. So, and this 20% of the future that is already here in this blade, for example, we have a third layer is a nature. Nature is timeless. So on Blade Lake, there is no future, no past. It is as it is for eons, and we're building the stories, we're making that future. So what I see here as a challenge is how to merge these two timelines that are emerging. Because this 20% is very powerful, and within this young generation, because we can't really transmit to them through tradition the moral values of humanity, we're kind of losing them. We're losing our kids. So if we don't change the paradigm, what's the real value of life? Because this 20%, among them, 80% are still believe that money is the value of life. If we let them build the future, we may get lost. So what I see as a big challenge in tourism, we have to be clear to see the tourism not just as a pleasure time, but as a way of living, as a way of earning, as a way of emerging. And we have to somehow softly shape that path for this 20% of the future that's running over us, to incorporate them, to be able to live among this 80% of people who are still not ready to embrace it mentally and emotionally. So for me, this is the biggest challenge. And institutions there, for example, institutions are completely unseen with this population. I am independent researchers because I can't really learn things through institutions today. So we will see day by day emerging of the new geniuses. That's obvious. They don't learn that from books. They learn that from hours and hours in front of the YouTube, in front of the data consuming. They coming up with brilliant conclusions. And this is really, I think that I'm not sure we can either understand how to merge that. But if we miss that point, we will end up with the 80% of people waiting for kaboom, that this 20% could produce easily. So somehow I see the places like Slovenia, Croatia, places that are a little bit out of the radar, places that can still incorporate the locals, who knows the heritage by talking, by narrative constructs, or not written heritage. If we give them a sort of a digital tools for these new explorers, new researchers to work together, to build new institutions for the new mythology that's bounding the past and future together, we can build the showcase, we can build the example, as you did, for how this enormous explosion of data could be canalized and used.
So a sort of myth 4.0, but hopefully that this myth will be not as dangerous as the previous myths in our region. So that's also...
Well, it's always about giant and David.
Yeah.
so sometimes giants win, sometimes little people win. Okay, it's not apocalyptic and doesn't have to be something that we have to submerge ourselves right now. But that could be motivating thing to live your life best in this moment. And that moment can last for eons. We don't know.
Yeah, of course.
So we have to decide to build. The storytelling is obviously something which shapes our reality today and what will shape our future. We live in a story. I move from Bled, for example, tomorrow to Budapest. It's another story.
Definitely.
So
they have an island, but it's not as beautiful as this one. Mr. Steiner, you wanted to add something?
Yes, some aspects. My definition of tourism 4.0 is similar to industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is individualization of mass production. And tourism 4.0 is individualization of mass tourism. To bring the perfect message, program, story for to the user, to our individual guest. And what I see, what is the problem, is education in tourism. My colleagues, or many, comes from university and from the education institutions, are more technocrats. They learn marketing in classic, the classic way. They know a lot of technical things, but they can only enumerate, but they cannot tell stories. And you use more intellectual background. You use more disciplines where you are an insider, and the interface between technique and a lot of disciplines is not part of the education in tourism. And we have to learn storytelling, and storytelling is more as soft things. In Linz, I say our guided tours. We don't need guides as a Wikipedia on 2 legs. We need a new philosophy of guides, and there we have a lot of things to do to bring all these new technique possibilities into stories, into new connections, to that this has the effect what you said, that the 80% have more fun and have more information and have more service with all these data things what we can have. We use the guided tours is my special things. Is always Wikipedia on 2 legs and not using the new situation, the interface between the data situation on the one side. They need no guides. Every building, every part of history is inside Wikipedia and other tools. you need the stories, you need the connection to our time, to the people what are part of the guided tour, and this I think is very bad in tourism. In many in museums and in cities, guided tours have a lot of change possibilities for the next time, but all our other information tools, we have to learn storytelling, we have to learn to develop narratives with all these data what we have.
Mr. Steiner, before you give up the microphone to others, one more question which start, let's say the last round before we start with the audience also taking part in it. You spoke about strategy. You came to Linz in 2007 because of the European capital of culture. So how difficult is to set up a completely new strategy? That would be interesting, for example, for tourist managers in other regions who would like to redefine their regions according to the future which is coming. So how difficult is it? How difficult was it for you to implement this strategy, or to find out what you really want? Because the future is so uncertain, and it was quite uncertain back in 2007 too.
Okay, I came from outside. It was very positive, and
not quite the outside, the other side of Danube.
I came from Bavaria, and Bavarians are very sympathetic in Linz. Very sympathetic in this, but this was very good. I saw Linz from my own eyes, and our artistic directors from European Capital of Culture came also from outside, from Switzerland, Martin Heller, from Germany, Uli Fuchs. And together we could make a reset. And but what we had was a lot of money. I have to say, yes, we had a lot of money.
Which is not a bad start, yes.
In projects and to bring it in communication. And what was very important, that after this year of 2009, the process were going on. The artistic director were ready, and they are not in Linz now. I am, as director of tourism, could develop this strategy was we started, and this is interesting information. The tourist board of Linz is a public is an institution of public law, and our members, like a chamber, have to pay money for our budget. 2,000 companies in Linz, and we made a Abstimmung.
Vote.
We made a vote, yes, voluntarily. That they pay the double fee for 5 years to develop this strategy, and they voted with more than 66% for this strategy. Over 5 years, they paid the double fee to realize this strategy. And I think this is very important, that not there is the end after the process of the European Capital of Culture. We could develop it, could continue it. And for my person, yes, in Linz, our slogan is "Say Linz, say change," and I am changed as a director of tourism. And in Linz, my way was a little bit to bring value into the heritage. I changed into a little bit philosopher in tourism, and I think it's very important, and it's for me was a very good situation, and then I feel very good in Linz until to this time to can develop it for the next decade.
Thank you very much for sharing this with us. Definitely, you need good managers, you need funds, and it's really good to also have this let's say public. It should be, let's say, okay. You can do also commercial projects, but it should be, let's say, a public surveillance of that, because it really comes to the benefit of the public itself. Ms. Haverbeke, it's really interesting because you're leading European institutions, and we know that all European institutions are a bit complicated because there's so many stakeholders at stake. So how do you deal with let's say changing or adapting strategies in general?
Well, for Europeana, and we are celebrating our 10-year anniversary
So
this
you're
year,
still
November.
young, yeah.
So we're still here, and
Not yet a teenager.
not yet a teenager, very young and very active. We were looking at our strategy, and we recently updated our strategy to respond to the needs of the user, the needs of our stakeholders, our cultural heritage institutions, but also the member states, and making sure that works. So we want to make it easy and rewarding for cultural heritage institutions to provide data and their collections into Europeana, so that we can offer them, so that's our second priority, offer them for use and reuse, either it's for education or for research or for fun or for tourism, but making their collections available in an attractive way. And we also look out to work in partnerships with, for example, those research platforms who are already offering access to the research, making sure that cultural heritage sits where the user already is. So as an example, making sure that now we have done some pilots where apps have taken up data from our API and included it in their app. So that's not bringing people to the Europeana platform, it's making sure that our shared cultural heritage sits where the user is. So I think that is at the heart of what we try to do, and making sure that our platform is a platform for use and reuse. And that's what we really stand for. And the focus is really on supporting this digital transformation from the traditional sector, but making it come to life into our daily lives as a natural thing. I like your comment just now about how does one expose himself to information? Is that through the traditional tour? Maybe it is, but maybe next time it's not. So, and you're a tourist like all the time in a way. I explore and I see people exploring things on their apps and their phones. So their interest in certain things is lively on a day-to-day basis. It's not only there when I'm visiting that place. So I think that is also a way in how we would like to see, making sure that people know that we have a fantastic resource available and that it comes from these trusted sources from all across Europe, and bringing that to life where the people want to see it and they need it. So that's where we
I would conclude this round with Mr. Batagel, because what you said was quite complicated, but it was also threatening in a way that so many things are possible, and we in this confused times, not only because of technology, but also because of, let's say, the perception of social media, the perception of politics in the world. It's quite difficult to predict what would happen, and really difficult to find, let's say, good strategies for the future, because we simply don't know how this future will evolve. So how do you see these threats in finding ways or setting up strategies, for example, in tourism for regions which would like to sort of redefine or modernize their public image for residents, but also for tourists?
First, you have to admit that technology will change the world, and we know that. I use term called strategic wormhole. So it's you actually catapult yourself into the future, and you try to see what should be the good steps to come to that point. It looks a little bit philosophical, but it works. For example, we did that with Donat MG when we did complete rebranding, and it works perfectly. So it's in tourism. I think it's very similar, but the category, the business itself, it's one of the most complicated ones. So what we know is, so I think we have to find what are the ingredients that will be needed in the future, whatever happens. So what we know is data will be public. We know that there will be a lot of crowdsourced materials, photos that we are using, anyone is using. But on top of it, there are institutions, and I think institutions, museums, they should come with perfect way how to describe in details those things we have from heritage, in heritage. That's the most important thing. Because otherwise it will be forgotten. It will be the same as with language. Digitalized language will remain. Non-digitalized will disappear. It's the same with heritage. So what we have now, so us as a small nation and Europe as a complicated thing, I think we have to see this as an opportunity because we have culture, we are proud of that in comparison to others. They don't have that. That's a very important difference. We have the culture and we have to show it, and we have to show it now in the best possible manner.
I would correct you a little bit. We have the content. Everybody has culture.
Culture, history. We are proud of history.
Okay.
We are proud of history. That's so important. Americans don't have it. We have it. Okay. I have to be a little bit provocative.
No, they have it, but it's partly ours, okay?
Yeah. This is even better.
Okay. So it will be complicated in a way, but now we would like to include you, dear audience, in our discussion. And we have our first keynote listener, which is the ambassador of Kazakhstan in Slovenia, His Excellency Mr. Kairat Saribay. Oh, he's gone, so no input from Kazakhstan. Well, we would like to include you. Well, do you have any questions to our panelists? Do you have any thoughts on the topics we're discussing? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any stories to tell, which may be interesting for us to think more out of the box? So who is going to start? It's quite a difficult thing in Slovenia. Nobody wants to talk, but there are also some outsiders here. So perhaps non-Slovenians would like to open the floor. Yes, you will start, but you still need the mic, which is working, and you have the mic, which is probably working.
I will start just to show that Slovenians, we also ask questions. Simona Mele, Kompas Novo Mesto.
There are exceptions, of course,
okay.
But
I think it's a very interesting topic, and because I think it's quite a challenge for you, because well, from practice we have a lot of groups, and if you have groups in Novo Mesto or in Ljubljana, when they start shrinking the program, I mean, always first we cut the museum, for example. And it's, I think that's why how to change this, and with digitalization, I think how to find, or with all those tools, that we will include more history, and that will not happen like we discussed earlier, could happen with language, that we will forget or we will lose our history. So how to, with this digitalization, or how to change this, that not the museum will be the first in program which we need to cut when the people like to shrink and they would like to see everything in one day. So we start with this.
Okay, so not to do the Brazilian way, but to do it, let's say, the Linz way. Okay, yeah, Mr. Batagir.
So things that are that it looks like it will disappear, you need to invest a lot. But before that, you need to find a new positioning, a new reason to exist. I think being there and having it as a, I don't know, exhibition place, I think this is not it anymore. It has to be much more. It has to be something happening. You know, kids are full of energy. They want to go there, but you must give them the reason to come. And the other thing is that digital part. You know, it's most probably the content that is in museums will be widely available, much easier to consume in VR environments very soon. So it has to be something that is really happening. Maybe you close it for 3 months or 4 months, but for those 5 months that are open, there must be full energy inside. That's my view.
Okay.
If I may, to say, yes, a new museum is place of communication, and museum is today is regarding as a media. I wouldn't agree with you to close for 5 months because they have to work very heavily with local community. But I agree with you that if there is nothing happening there, you would not visit, you know, because we are not Louvre. But we have our own stories, and we have to tell them, because humanity and human being was created by storytelling.
If I can just quickly add, institutions at this point, there are so many independent researchers. If you speak about our heritage, let's say Slovenian Croatian, you probably also have, those are people who are not archaeologists, who are not historians, those are people who are not professionals, and they don't have access to institutions, and they don't care about institutions. We will see they bringing a knowledge that's changing the paradigm of life. They're finding the researchers, especially in archaeology, of these places, that will completely change the past of this place. So this is something where institution has to react. Institution has to give the hand to those people, to assimilate them, and to help to build a new platform, to include them. Yes, for now they are ignored because, you know, they're doing it by their own resources. They are not professionals. Institutions are always scared from you. But this is something where things has to come together, and that's the point when storytelling will start to be built. Because those people who are not institutional minds, they are storytellers. And this is what institutions today is missing. So this is the way to go, not just digitalized, not just 3D print, not just augmented reality. We kind of making that way, we're making a heritage to be a popcorn heritage. We're making it to be like attractive in 3 minutes. But we need to build the context. That's why we are becoming boring pretty soon. Augmented reality becoming boring. Because there is no context, and new context is a paradigm shift, which are bring with non-institutional researchers.
Can I have a reflection of what Simona said? I would like to ask the colleagues not from Dolenjska region, do they know that last year Dolenjska Novo Mesto was a year of amber? They had a very special museum exhibition, a lot of events. As you said, did we know all this? I don't think so. So this is the challenge, I'm saying. So it was a great thing. All people from Novo Mesto, they thought that the people from America should know that it's an amber exhibition. But the people from Slovenia working in tourism, which is our profession to know things. And I know that we can't know everything. So is there digitalization that can help us or confuse us? I'm still wrong.
Okay. Any take on that? Yeah.
Reflecting on how museums can maybe adopt alongside their traditional strategy also a digital strategy and make it part of what they do, and not only looking at how many visitors have visited your physical space, but how many people have been exposed to your digital collections, whether in the States or whether they're in Australia, whether in the Netherlands or here in Slovenia. I think that contributes much wider to your success rate in not only getting the people through the door. So we work a lot with heritage institutions and museums who have adopted a very open digital strategy, like the Rijksmuseum in the Netherlands, but also Staatsmuseum voor Kunst in Denmark, and so smaller and bigger museums, and has really paid off for them to really open up their collections and look for collaborations with other partners outside of the scope, and not with the only aim to bring in people into the building, but expose your collections to people. So I think that broader perspective, and in any way you can adopt it as appropriate to your different audiences, I think is something that you would have to explore and at least be open towards, even though it might become scary because you think, okay, actually maybe I'll lose people coming through the door, but my exposure is bigger. So yeah, happy to talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Yeah.
Marko Brumen, just 2 points. Whenever you're talking about millennials and them, you should ask yourselves, or that's what I'm doing, why we are talking about them, why they are not included already, why they're not on the podium. I think what Bled Strategic Forum is doing with the Young Strategic Bled Forum is amazing, but then again, why it is separate entity, why it is not intertwined with other strands and thoughts. I think that that's one thing. And another thing is heritage culture. Heritage today was contemporary culture yesterday. Don't forget about life creation. Don't forget that good museums, good institutions already using their content for new creations, for new stuff. Because in digital, you don't care if it's old or not, you just care about experience. If this experience has a valuable lesson from history, yoo-hoo, but if it doesn't and it's still entertaining, yoo-hoo also. So it's the creators, those who make content now, with the history, with contemporary stuff, who dictate what is going to be seen, what is going to attract people. And creators needs to be millennials, old, everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any comment on that?
Millennials are not here because they don't care. Millennials don't care. That's what I was trying to say all the time. We have to find a way to bring them between us, to help us to see the world like they see it. So,
or perhaps could we put it in a different way? Not they don't care, but they're not here because they're doing other things. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Some aspects.
Just Mr. Steiner.
No, I'm sorry, I was provoked. I'm a millennial, I'm 24 years old. I'm sorry, I can't accept what you said. I think that we millennials are really involved. I'm so sorry, but I'm here 3 years now. And every year I'm hearing, yeah, we should include young people, we should include youth. I'm so sorry, but it's not our problem, it's your problem. As Mr. said, I haven't received an invitation to your panel. And I'm working in tourism since I was 16.
That's what I said. That's our problem.
Yeah, but it's your problem,
That's
not mine.
our problem, exactly. And thank you to be here. That's really nice.
Okay. Yeah. Mr.
No,
Steiner.
I can understand. I told you I come from the Ars Electronica Festival, and there is our own section for U19, under 19. Only a festival for pupils for
millennials.
millenniums. And for us, it's also important to create an app, to create other things, to work together with schools and with the millenniums. I think there are very, very interesting inputs what's coming there. But I can understand because museums, heritage, will see a new perspective to bring their message to more people by digitalization, and I understand why we are discussing this special aspect. And now I'm working in tourism, and our focusing is always to the museum. Tourism is museum, but how many people are going into a museum? It's a very, very small part of our guests are going into a museum. But I would not accept this as a fact. I think the quality of staying in Linz, of staying in our destinations, will be better when there are more stories, when there are more connections about nature, about heritage, about our region. And this can do it in museums. When we make it good in Linz, we have some museums. On the one side, Ars Electronica has 180,000 visitors per year, and a very, very good artistic museum, Lentos, has 30 or 40,000. What's the same in our information? It's the same place, but there are different strategies to bring the content from the museum to the visitors. And there we have to do a lot in digitalization, and I think we have to learn more networking, not only in a city like the Danube. Linz is on the river Danube. And we are discussing mosaic from museums, and at the end from Regensburg or Passau to Linz to Carnuntum to Vienna, at the end of the journey, they have a whole picture. And not in every city they are for 1 or for 2 hours in a museum, only for 15 or 30 minutes, and they have a small aspect. And when you was in 5 or 6 museums along the whole Danube from Regensburg to Vienna, you have the whole picture. I don't know what you say to this strategy, but I think we need new strategies to make the museum as a part of exploring when we are over a longer distance on traveling. But we have no strategies at the time to this situation.
If I can continue on this, we had this experience, that's what brought me on this panel. So with this Tesla exhibition, we start with institution. Then I decided, because I was called to be author, I don't want to work institutional way. So what we did exhibition about Tesla without any Tesla coil, without any Tesla instrument. It was a storytelling journey through the film set. I call it, we envisioned a new format, film fresco, because I worked only with non-institutional researchers that I met. They are sort of millennials, and I involve schools and a lot of young people to help me to envision space for the visitor where they will get all the informations, but they will not feel aggressively oppressed to learn a lot. So my producer was very scared of that vision because it was quite expensive. We needed budgets for that. And it was completely ununderstandable to anyone at the point when it was built. When it was built in 4 months, it's Croatia, it's Zagreb, it's a 1 million people city. We had 120,000 visitors. The price of a ticket was €10. We were very rigid. We didn't allow the free entrance because we invested a lot in that exhibition and we needed to return that. After 4 months, we changed a lot of mindsets in schools. Schools were 50% of our visitors, and I was called to help teachers to envision their way of thinking about culture and heritage in general, not just about Tesla. What I actually built, it wasn't that complicated. I used all technology that was on my disposal, masked in very tactile things. So people today, this is how I bridge the gap between this 20% of millennials who are completely fluent in building technology and 80% of people who just need to consume that technology. I had a lot of paper. People like paper. I had a lot of tactile things. I made a theater set where people were walking through, and as they were touching and exploring, they were building the new reality for the people behind them. So I just built the experience full of story, and people were spending 3 hours on our exhibition. So this is, I can say from my experience, and you know, in Croatia, people don't go on exhibitions, people don't go to museums. 120,000 people is a lot. Picasso had 140,000, and it was 2 months longer than our exhibition. So we used to say that we beat Picasso. Even Picasso, that the schools must to go to Picasso, not to our exhibition. So I think that's the thing. We have to bring 3 generations together. People under 19, people till 40, and older people. We have to bring, somebody has to bring us together and let us create this new reality that will be respectful for everybody. And we don't have to be obsessed so much to give so much information and knowledge anymore. Because it's too much for people. We just have to give them the simple story where they will start again, and then from there they will start to explore and learn. That was our experience. And now we are called for the satellite events where people want to learn more about Tesla, more about film, more about photography, blah, blah, blah. But this bust was completely something new in museum, in institution, in gallery, in storytelling way of doing things.
Okay, I see you're really creative because you've just invented a new term, so-called millennial. So everybody can be a so-called millennial. So no problem. Yeah, Mr. Schouderbeke?
Yeah, thank you very much about, I don't know, I can't remember his name, about the question about how we're involving or how we try to involve the younger generation with digital cultural heritage. And at Europeana we have quite a lot of experience of engaging those people, whether it's through a cool GIF It Up competition, of making all public domain material available for the audience to play around with and make cool Giphy. So it's a pan-European, it's a global competition actually, and it doesn't give context to where the object comes from. It's a high resolution, public domain licensed image that you can play around with and make to come to life. What do people do? They share it on the website, they share it online. It comes from a cultural heritage institution, views with over 2 million per little Giphy that you can use on your phone, in your WhatsApp, or in your Instagram almost every day. So engaging the younger generation in that is very, we see a positive result on that. And secondly, but there is a little bit more historical context. We have gathered a lot of letters from the First World War, and we developed together with a partner a transcription tool. So to make history come to life, we're engaging and bringing that to the classroom, and that younger generation make the history come to life by transcribing those letters of the First World War. And we have got some really nice testimonies by 16, 15, 20-year-olds who have been using that and who really felt like us exposing them through these sources with the history is a different way of engaging them with the history, and we see really good results with that. And I think there's a lot of positive energy coming our way from younger generations, and we're very keen to collaborate with them further, and we look to set up nice workshops on Giphy and on cool things that we can make cultural heritage come to life.
Okay, great. Mr. Batagil wanted to say something, but then we'll go to Ms. Wiedrich-Perko.
No, it's not only about heritage. It's we are still talking about tourism, and there are certain motives behind these tourists that are coming here. So we did huge research maybe 2 years ago. We have 12 personas, representatives of these segments that are aligned on 3 dimensions. So it's it's socializing, it's experience, and having a good time. 3 things. So experience is just one of the motives. There are also 2 other ones. So this is one thing. The second thing is these millennials, kids, and why they're so important. So they're not important because they somehow fit in one of these segments. They're important because we understand the future while understanding them. They are showing where the things are going in the future. They're the gaming generation. So before we had the internet generation, now we have the gaming generation. And they will come to this world and they will see this world, tourism, all the interaction will be through their gaming mindset. And that is the point. That's why we need those millennials. Don't ignore them.
Okay, no, we're not doing that. Ms. Wiedrich-Perko.
Yeah, thank you. I'm coming back to museums. Yeah, it's a new paradigm in museum work, or let's say mentality. And I was taught that in your country, in Zagreb, because you have a special academic let's say, study museology, and I was a student of Professor Tomislav Šola, who created, also with other professionalists, eco-museum. This is not museum about ecology, but heritage is here represented as everything together, as nature, culture, but through the local population, because it is representing the sense of place, and the sense of place and authenticity of heritage, and therefore heritage is so important, bring us stability, sense of stability, sense of identity. And that is so important. And we are, it's really important that we reveal also the therapeutic role of heritage in today's society. And please don't think only, I'm grandmom, so I know what are millennials, but also about elderly population. There are more than one, I think already 1/3 of the today's population.
And it's a growing population
yeah,
too.
Not grow. Sometimes even, you know, I'm archaeologist. I'm thinking afterlife. Yeah, but anyway, and why the people are coming to museums? Because they would like to know, to be in touch with the past. And I'm asking you, how many of you know that here in Bled, this so important place where Slovenian culture was created, where Prešeren wrote his beautiful poems, where myth of, let's say, our past was created. And why we don't know? Because it's not presented on storytelling way. I think so. But data and heritage, they are basis of everything what we are doing. And because it's so easy to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any more inputs from the audience? I feel very Slovenian right now, and nobody wants to talk. Oh, if not, we can do the final round, because we're approaching a very important thing today. It is lunch. And it will be really fantastic. Also, let's say, inspired by heritage and local food. So my last question to all of you would be: okay, we discussed things about future. You said something which somehow puzzled me, that context is boring. Did you say that?
Something like that. Yeah. It's a short-term context approaching. So,
okay.
So something more.
But okay, if you want to improve our lives, in order to give more to tourists through presenting our culture, well, how dangerous? Because I want to address dangers too. Is it that if we lose this context, we lose truth? Okay, truth is a very complex thing, even as complex as Europe, for example. But if we lose this context, if we have this variety of myths, where is the truth? And how to preserve at least, let's say, an impression of truth? Mr. Batagel, you're circulating with your eyes.
No, it's all about perception, and on the other side you have truth, and when the gap is huge, there is work to do. That's it.
Okay, so let us work. Ms. Wiedrich-Perko.
Yeah, I would say this is a question for philosophers and for theologians.
Well, but you all became philosophers.
Yeah,
Mr. Steiner has become philosopher. Mr. Batagel is a philosopher.
No,
he said it by himself. No, you said you became a little bit of a philosopher.
Yeah, but okay.
Ms. Strauss-Podlogar is working in politics now. She is definitely a philosopher. Sociologist, okay.
And I'm poet. Okay. Yeah, but anyway, this is the heritage is philosophy. And you know, if you are asking for truth, then you got so many truths today. But what is really important is to keep in your mind the values. The values which are important for some country, for some community, and the values how to live together.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
because this is the question of democratization, what you are asking, and good musealization and good representing heritage, even how to do the tourism. This is a question of democratization, not only of how to gain money.
Okay, so may I add true values? True values. So you spoke about values, truth. Okay, true values. Probably this is the European compromise. Ms. Podlogar, Strauss.
Yeah, perceptions, I agree. And we not only invested, but we did a lot in last few years in Slovenia, in Slovene tourism, to make a perception of Slovenia for the people all around the world really something special, unique, green, active and healthy, at the final point for 5-star experiences. So reality and the gap, this is something we should discuss. Maybe it would be for another hour. But we should all do our homework. I mean, the destinations should do their homework, the people from businesses. We should really communicate, cooperate, work together, share our experiences, and then be also realistic. Because as Zenel said, I mean, it's definitely not my whole digitalization, but I try hard to understand it. And what he said, it's really algorithms. I mean, we can sometimes, because I'm from Bled, you all know that, and when I travel all around Slovenia, and I'm really impressed what has been done in tourism development on other parts of Slovenia. But a lot of times they are saying, yes, but most of the time everywhere is Bled or Piran or Postojnska Jama, so we are not really, or Ljubljana. But there are also algorithms that they push out of Slovenia.info. And then again, we should do our homework to have more content from other parts. And then when we have guests in all these cities, to have the knowledge to invite them also and to let them know the other parts. And then we won't have a problem, as Simona said before, they are shrinking the program from 1 day and a half to 1 day. I mean, we would like that our guests would enlarge in the program from 1 day and a half to 5 days and of course they are already niche agencies, they are concentrated on this, they are doing only this. To have a program that the guests would stay in Slovenia 5 to 10 days and really to have the feeling after 10 days that it's worthwhile coming back because they didn't have the full experience yet. And this is, I think, the main challenge if I go back to tourism, using digitalization to help us, but at the end of the day, it's still us working with our guests and have the knowledge, the energy, and the passion.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Sauerbeke?
Well, we live in a time of digital transformation, and that's a fact. And culture connects, and I think we should not forget that. And at a pan-European level, so Slovenia is part of Europe, and making our shared history and culture and expose that to a broad audience, I think really connects us as human beings to end on a sort of philosophical note.
Thank you very much. Mr. Steiner?
Yes, for me the question is, can we find a new term for tourism? I think it's not the right term, what we want. We need a word with exploring, with discovering, expurism or so similar. Because in tourism, the minor matters are too strong in the focus, and the main issues, we have problems to bring it to our guests, not only the manager in tourism, everybody at the hotel reception, everybody in the taxis and so on. And I think digitalization, you said it, will help us. But at first we have to bring the mind into the big data things, and this is our duty. It's part of education, I say always, the people, our guests, didn't know what they not know, and what they know, when they not know what is around in culture and nature and in heritage in the destination, they will it not search and say is not part of their experience. Tourism, I come back to my first definition, what is tourism 4.0? Individualization of mass tourism. How can we bring for the special interests, for the special background for our guests, the right information, the right things what he should explore, what he should discover, then I think we make a new step into a better tourism for our guests and for our destinations, I think.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least,
what we was talking about truth.
Yeah.
We are the truth. Every human being containing the truth within itself. And that's for the first time in known history that we can go on a quest for that truth within us. You probably know there is a problem of data storage. And the scientists come up that DNA could be a great data storage device. What telling us that? It's telling us that DNA is already packed with data, that we have no clue what is going on inside us. So with the heritage, I can tell also from my experience, been almost 20 years independent researchers with many other independent researchers coming out of history and artistic history institution, I can say that we need to make a heritage playful. We have to, workers in this industry, we have to imagine ourselves as aliens that fall on blood. So what we have, okay, we know how to use a mobile phone because we are advanced civilization. And on that mobile phone we have Europeana, Wikipedia, all museums. They are just information, but some of them are accessible to us to play as we want to play with, but some are just sealed to be seen and acknowledged. So I think in this point we have to go to the 4.0 tourism, to the quest for the truth, through the heritage, through the past, where we have to allow institutionally new truths to be revealed from the past, from archaeology, new context. We have to listen more to the living people who still knows the stories on whole Balkan area. And in certain amount of years, millennials will come up with completely new world. And we will be very happy to see it emerging. So this is not that much that we have to do. We just have to unlock our institutional way of thinking, our pressure of knowing everything, and we just have to play around with the life that is given to us, that for the first time in history, we don't have to be scared. Are we going to starve? Okay, we can, because greed is big and money is not floating as it has to. But we have resources, we have energies, thanks to Tesla, and now we can finally play around. As soon as we get it, sooner we will see it before we die.
Okay, that was an optimistic end to the panel. Hopefully it will happen. So thank you very much. Enjoy playing your lives in the future. And I wish you really a lot of success in what you do. So thank you very much. Another big applause for our panelists. You may remain on ice of the audience if you want, but you can also take your seats because we still have two things to present. Well, we heard a lot about good practices, but there is also a very good example in Slovenia regarding the combination of tourism, knowledge, experience, and of course culture. It is the Herman Potočnik Nordung Center of Space Technologies, and its display of Herman Potočnik's life and work. How many of you haven't heard about Herman Potočnik Nordung? You have not? That would probably be a good next project of you, because there was not only Tesla, but it was also Herman Potočnik. His pseudonym was Nordung, which is I mean it's a combination of no Ordnung. No, it's really he was a Slovenian rocket engineer back in the 20s of the 20th century. So actually he lived in the same time as Nikola Tesla, but he died even before him. He was aged 36 when he died in Vienna in poverty, but he's actually the author of one book which changed our world. and you probably didn't know that. He wrote a book in German, Das Problem der Befahrung des Weltraums, der Raketenmotor, so the problem of space travel, the rocket motor. So he actually, on 188 pages and 100 hand-made illustrations, he actually solved the problem of space travel and living in space. In that time, it was an incredible thing, but I mean, the practice of late 60s and still going on actually prove him right. So he was actually one of the biggest pioneers of space travel in the world. Unfortunately, his work was pretty much unknown even in Slovenia, but that changed with this Herman Potočnik Nordung Center of Space Technologies based in Vitanje, where the family of his mother actually came from. It is a center which is built as he actually he planned a so-called Wohnrad. It's a living wheel where people could survive in space. So this center is built in a way how this Wohnrad was planned by Herman Potočnik. So it's a meeting space of science, culture, and experience, and they have now a very interesting virtual Nordung project, which was designed by themselves, so it's a Slovenian production where you can actually explore and experience space and space travel through this VR application and also materials. So it's a very unique experience we're really proud of. We have Mr. Dominik Kobold here, who is the director of the Nordung Center. So he may explain to you a little bit later how it works, and you can also experience the VR Nordung application then afterwards in this last space there. But nothing can match really the experience of visiting this place in Vitanje, that's in central Slovenia. You know, Slovenia is very small, so it's easily accessible. And we can present you a very brief film on how this VR Nordung actually functions. So we'll see the film now. So this is the VR application of the Nordung Center. You can, as I said, test it here in Bled, but you're of course hardly welcome at this center in Vitanje. It's an architectural also wonder because it's, as I said, built in the way of this wheelrad. And last but not least, because we spoke about new technologies and new experience, but everybody has to eat something. You know, the Slovenian proverb, nobena vreča ne stoji, prazna vreča ne stoji pokonci, so empty sack does not stand on its feet. So that's why I announce now, let's say, the last topic of our meeting. It's lunch. And it will be a very, very special lunch. You can applaud before tasting it, but it will be very special. I don't know if the chef Simon Bertonsl is already here. Yes, now you can do your applause. So Simon is a rock star of chefs here in Slovenia. Oh yes, you are.
I don't know.
No, not okay, not yet, but you will definitely be, because Slovenia will be the European region of gastronomy in 2021. So you're already preparing yourself for this year. But can you tell us something about you, because you're, as I said, really famous.
I don't think I'm so famous, but my philosophy is to all the guests which is coming in our house or in Bled, it comes very good culinary experience. I just use a very good, how I say, ingredients to use some new techniques and then just put it to the guests' plates.
So you invent culinary stories. Well, what can our guests expect today? What did you choose for them?
For today lunch, I just choose some local ingredients which you can find on a radius of 10 kilometers. For the starters, we have some finger food for snacks and some wine. Then we have some.
Did you say snakes or snacks?
Snacks. We said snacks.
We don't have snakes here within 10 kilometers.
You also can try some this year local story, which is cheese bled. We said you can try this local cheese and some local smoked beef. Then we have some soup, which is barley soup with some seasonal vegetable. And for the main dish, I use some fish and some beef, which is beef cheeks, which we slowly cooked maybe 2 days, and some vegetable. For dessert, of course, our famous ice cream and cream cake, of course.
Famous ice cream, you must specify this.
This ice cream, last year I think, we won in some global challenge with the best ice cream in the world. So we must sell them a lot. And of course, our famous cream cake, cream schnitter, which is, you must try it if you don't until now.
Of course, you are not allowed to leave Bled without tasting the cream schnitter. So that
buy for takeaway, of course.
Yes, of course. So it will end with a nice special ice cream with cream schnitter, and there will be lots in between. Thank you very much, and take care.
Enjoy the lunch.
Oh yes, we will do it. So that was Simon Bartonsel, the head chef of Grand Hotel Toplice and the prestigious Juliana restaurant, which is a pillar of gastronomy at Sava Hoteli Bled. So now you know who will be responsible of your delights coming soon. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and enjoy Slovenia, enjoy Bled, and come back next year. Thank you very much and goodbye.